Welcome back to the Legit Day Job Podcast. I'm Cody.
I'm Jared.
And I am a worker.
Indeed, a legit worker.
Yes.
Welcome to day 16 of Toho-san. We're halfway through the Heisei era.
Already? Jesus.
Already. Yeah, this is a pretty short one. There's only, I think I misspoke. I think last time I said there was 9 movies in this one. I misspoke. There's 7. Technically 8 because we watched Return of Godzilla twice. We are now halfway through it. So two more viewings, unfortunately, of the Heisei era. But this episode we watched Godzilla vs. Biollante and Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah. We're gonna have to rush through these a bit. Can't spend too much time on them as opposed to past episodes. So Godzilla vs. Biollante. Not sure where to begin on a plot recap. There's a lot going on in Godzilla vs. Biollante. Basically, you got. So it's the interesting thing about the Heisei era is it's the only era where it's all one continuity, as in all the films are direct sequels to each other, more so than direct sequels in the Showa era. Like the plots directly affect the next film's plots. So Godzilla vs. Biollante opens immediately after the Return of Godzilla, where people are like combing through the wreckage of Tokyo, scouring for Godzilla cells. That's the setup. The actual plot, however, involves a scientist who's experimenting. A scientist who loses his daughter in a terrorist attack in Arabia. Sarabia. It's Saradia. That's what I'm pretty sure it's a fictitious nation. Could be wrong. I just know that it's a desert with a Stanford just in the middle of nowhere in the desert. But anyway, so the scientist, he loses his daughter in a terrorist bombing attack at this science facility. And so the gist of the main plot thread in Godzilla vs. Biollante is the scientist is experimenting with his daughter's cells, fusing them with cells of a plant as well as Godzilla cells, which creates a giant plant monster, and Godzilla has to fight it.
Yeah. So I'd argue there's 2 main human plots. Human plot 1 is the scientist and his plant daughter.
Yeah.
And plot thread 2 is Japan's Godzilla cells.
Yeah.
And foreign nations trying to steal them.
Yeah. There's a third human plot too, because this film also introduces the fact that Japan is just like fostering like an entire like foster home for children with ESP. And so there's the whole plot thread of a reoccurring character throughout this entire era. I think her name is Miki.
Something like that.
And she's like an extremely gifted like ESP user and can like connect to Godzilla, like know where he is at all times. And even at one point in the film, she tries to like connect brainwaves with him to like communicate. He ends up like mentally wrecking her, but yeah, she tried.
GG no re.
So yeah, there's a lot going on in this film in terms of plot threads. As I mentioned and as you reiterated, yeah, there's the scientist plot thread, which is the bulk of the film. And then yeah, the secondary plot thread is this like war for these Godzilla cells, because there's like 3 or 4 different countries who are sending in like assassins to just steal these Godzilla cells. I mean, the film opens with again like Japanese, I think, soldiers, right? I think, or just Japanese, just maintenance, just janitors. I don't know.
Right. So I remember what you're talking about. It's like the terrorist group like going and they find the Godzilla cells, and then the Japanese self-defense force like comes in and starts shooting at them.
It wasn't even the terrorist group at first. It was like Japanese like scientists found the cells, and then the American soldiers came in and like stole them from them, and then the terrorists came and stole them from the Americans.
Oh, were the scientists at the very beginning Japanese? I figured that they were all part of one group just hunting for cells together.
I'm pretty sure they were Japanese. I could be misremembering.
I don't know. Yeah.
Point is, there's like 3 or 4 different nations all like got like raging hard-ons for these Godzilla cells. It is explained at some point that like the Godzilla cells have like unfathomable like regeneration abilities. Like they're basically like pieces of like Deadpool. Like they just regen from like anything.
Mm-hmm.
However, I don't think beyond that it's ever really explained why like everyone and their mother wants these cells.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a piece of Godzilla.
Well, so I guess that brings to the there's 2 main themes that I found through this movie, and one of the 2 is probably why I'm a little biased towards one of the themes that it seemed to be hinting at, which is why I don't think I enjoyed this movie as much as I should have. But theme 1 is about the scientist and his daughter thing.
Yeah.
And it kind of ends on the whole cliche, men are the real monsters. Like, look at these awful things that science has created. Mankind's the true monster. Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
The other theme that is kind of like hinted on is specifically on genetic engineering.
Yeah.
And basically, the main players from the countries, it's not like the country themselves want the Godzilla cells. It's like a bunch of different genetic engineering
it's a bunch of different like organizations
that are trying to get these cells so that way they can take Godzilla's DNA and enhance their own things and make their own weapons out of the cells, or make their own super whatevers with Godzilla's cells. I don't know.
I couldn't help but make the connection while we were watching it. I mean, this is super nerdy. I highly doubt either of you would even get the reference. It reminded me a lot of a plot device in Naruto, specifically towards the end of Naruto. The first Hokage, his cells basically are like the cells of Jesus, and become the ultimate MacGuffin later on in the series.
Are we talking about White Boy Toby right now?
Yeah.
Yep.
Anyway, it reminded me a lot of that. Like these cells are just MacGuffins that basically can be just reverse engineered to do just about anything you can imagine.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
It makes more sense in context of the main plot thread, which the scientist, it's not so much the Godzilla cells as much he's just using their regenerative. Thank you. Their regeneration abilities to try and like rebirth his daughter. So there was at least that. It was everyone else. They didn't really have like a clear like, we want to use them for this. We want to use them for this. It was just we want them. We're gonna take them. At one point, one of the terrorist groups makes a pretty ballsy ultimatum where they like blackmail the Japanese government, and they say, if you don't give it to us by like 2 p.m. today, we're gonna keep in mind in context. Again, this is a direct continuation of Return of Godzilla, in which at the very end Godzilla was trapped inside of the volcano. So these terrorists, like halfway through the movie, or one of these terrorist organizations, they blackmailed the Japanese government by saying, you better give us the cells by 2 p.m. today, or we're just going to blow up the volcano and just set Godzilla loose on you guys. It's quite a ballsy ultimatum. Even ballsier is I don't know who. There was someone in that room, like in the some government higher up, who said it was a bluff. I mean, like that it's not like that was a plot there that went anywhere. But just the fact that someone said, "Oh, they're bluffing," that's quite a ballsy. I don't think I'd want to play chicken with that kind of threat.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway, to back up a little bit, I don't know if we necessarily will have time to like go through like specific like beginning to end like we've been doing. I didn't take too many notes just because I knew we wouldn't have too much time on this one. We still have like 20 minutes, so if we want to go through it start to finish, we'd have to,
Nah.
not get into details that much.
No, we can just hit the wave tops on this one. This was probably so far out of the technically 3 movies that we watched. This was about on the same level as the American cut of Return of Godzilla to me.
Really, you hated it that much?
I didn't hate it. I was just bored throughout it, and it didn't interest me that much. It has a very anti genetic engineering sort of vibe to it. It's like it kind of demonizes genetic engineering, and like in real world we have GMOs and people are like, oh my god, GMOs are so bad. I'm not gonna argue that in the real world there aren't negative implications to that stuff, but it more has to do with like ethical things. I'm gonna try not to get into it too much, but like for example, the company is called like Santo or Samato or something like that. That's like the biggest provider of GMO based crops. And in terms of like ethical ramifications, let's say I think they have a strain of corn that has like natural resistance to pests.
Yeah.
Farmer plants a crop full of that type of corn, or a field full of that type of crop, and then the pollen picks up and say it's the pollen goes and starts breeding with another farmer's crop of corn, and then next year they use that crop to grow, and it just so happens to get the same strand of DNA that made Santo's crops pest resistant. Santo has the power to go in and sue farmer B because they're technically illegally using their crop, even though it's not their fault that their stuff got cross-pollinated.
I'd kill to see that court case with Santa suing someone.
It's happened, and people have gotten sued over it, is the issue, because they technically somehow copyrighted that particular genome in the corn crop. It's weird. So there's ethical ramifications in terms of like corporations being bastards about it, and then in terms of like global health, because a lot of these GMO crops are the clone of the same crop. Let's say there is some sort of disease that does happen to infect one, because they all have the exact same gene sequence. It's very likely that all of them will get infected, and then you just kill an entire field's worth of corn because they weren't protected against that one gene. That's why genetic diversity is a big deal. But past that, there's not really too much that's harmful about GMOs. The thing that everybody freaks out about is, oh my god, GMOs are going to poison you or cause cancer or whatever. No, there's no connection to that kind of crap. Let's be real here. If you're going to go to the very basic definition of genetic engineering, where you breed stuff with select traits in order to get a product that you want, your fucking dog or cat at home is a genetically modified organism. We took different breeds of wolves that had traits that we wanted, bred them together, and we got the type of dog that we wanted out of it. But anyway, so that's my like hitting the quick wave tops spiel about that.
This has been Biology with Jared. I mean, you could look at it like that. I don't think that's quite what they were going for, though. I don't think they were necessarily demonizing genetic engineering. I think they were more so not even really demonizing. I think they were more so trying to go for if you could like keep a human alive by splicing them with something else, would you? Because again, like the conflict wasn't necessarily the genetic engineering; it was the fact that he like fused his daughter with a plant that turned into a monster.
Okay, I guess I could kind of see that.
But you know, I guess it could also be viewed as genetic engineering, but I don't know. I didn't really view it that way. I don't really. What I don't understand is how you could have been bored by it. I wrote down that this film is so rapidly paced, like just because there's so much shit going on. The first act has like 2 acts. There's like 2 acts of a normal film crammed down into the first act of this one.
I mean, sure, it was rapid paced, but 75% of it was still human drama, and no sides of the human drama in this particular film interest me at all.
Yeah.
Like in Return of Godzilla, at least I was interested in the political tension side. In this last movie, I freaking loved the human drama, mostly because there wasn't a whole lot of it there, but they kept it simple, they kept it sweet, and they, you know, I was actually invested in the characters.
Yeah.
For, you know, Godzilla versus Biollante, I really just wasn't interested in anybody partaking in the movie.
To each his own. I personally find it very, very interesting. But to each his own.
I will say the soundtrack was a banger.
The soundtrack was quite a banger. I will also say that I couldn't understand fucking shit in the beginning of the film. Like in the entire first act of the movie, they have like crucial expository dialogue spoken in broken English.
Yeah.
And yes, that's English, not English. they have Japanese. So I don't, because again, there's what I can only assume is I could be mistaken. I'm pretty sure it's a fictitious nation, Saradia.
It's some sort of fictitious Arabian
nation
nation
to some extent.
Yeah.
So I can only assume that whoever they hired to portray the Saradians weren't Japanese. They were speaking Japanese, but they don't look Japanese. But at the same time, they could have been Japanese. And what I mean by that is everyone in these crucial expository English dialogue scenes, everyone is speaking terrible English to the point where you need subtitles to understand it. Unfortunately, there weren't any.
Yeah.
So like the entire like setup of the film, I didn't really catch anything. I know that again, you know, the scientist went to some research facility in Saradia, and then it got bombed by terrorists, and he lost his daughter. But in regards to what he was doing there, flew right over my head.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I pulled up Wikipedia just to read what happened, so I could tell you what happened in the beginning, but I did not catch it at all in the film itself.
Yeah. I will say it does have the most JoJo dialogue in like the "oh damn."
Yeah, there's a lot of like, there's just out of nowhere, like there's a whole bunch of just like 80s action scenes in like, and when I say 80s action scenes, I'm not even talking like, it's not in a bad way, but they're not good 80s action scenes. It's like an 80s like cartoon, like G.I. Joe or Transformers. It's that kind of 80s action scenes.
Yeah.
Where you got a whole bunch of guys like generic soldiers running around with guns, and they spit out these terribly amazing one-liners, all in English, of course. It's amazing. It's I don't know if I'd call it cheesy. I don't know if I'd call it campy either. It's just itself.
Yeah.
I mean, but it pulls it off. Like again, it's not like it doesn't take you out of the movie necessarily. I'd attribute something like Godzilla versus Ghidorah, where it fits in its own little bubble
Yeah.
It's jarring, sure, but it's not like you don't ever believe it.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah. No, I will say those action scenes were fun for me. That was fun.
Yeah.
To an extent, the kaiju battles were fun.
Yeah.
As well as Godzilla on the electric minefield. That was a pretty fun little sequence right there.
Yeah. There's I mean, again, like there's so much going on in this movie, and I do gotta give it props. It does juggle everything quite well, as opposed to can't think of it off the top of my head. There were a couple films in the Showa era that had like so many plot threads going on, and it was just jarring because it didn't know how to handle it. I guess maybe something like Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla might be a good example, where it just had so much going on, it just didn't know how to juggle between all the different plot threads, so it just kept going scene to scene to scene to scene. This one is rapidly paced, but at least it knows how to juggle everything, so you never feel disorientated necessarily. You're able to keep up with it. It's just rapid fire, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah. Sans like 25% of the dialogue being broken English.
Yeah, besides that. That's what we got Wikipedia for. I did write down probably biggest oversight in terms of the plot itself is the fact that absolutely no one apparently holds the scientist responsible for making a doomsday monster. For making an abomination.
I mean, he gets reprimanded for it. He never
gets a slap on the wrist.
He never faces any legal trouble. It's just like his friends and colleagues are like, Jesus Christ, you're terrible. You turned your daughter into a monster. You're a fucking evil man.
Although
then at the end of the movie, he's like redeemed for it because his daughter like saves.
Well, let me put it this way, because there's two different ways that he should have been like in serious trouble for on like all kinds of different stances. The first half is the fact that he literally spliced his daughter. I mean, his daughter's cells, but I mean, it was stated that like it like carried her soul on. So technically speaking, her daughter lived on, or his daughter lived on.
Yeah.
So the first half is the fact that the humanitarian issue of creating a hybrid of his daughter with a plant. Just in general, I feel like all kinds of different agencies would be all over that shit.
Yep.
And then there's the fact that this little plant grows up to be a giant monster that wants to kill everything. So yeah, he definitely should have been locked up for life. PETA would have been all over his ass. All of like the UN nations would have been all over his ass. Everyone should have been all over his ass. But I'm pretty sure by the end of the film, he got off scot-free.
Yeah.
There was even a scene where like the reporters, so like someone tried to get him to answer for shit, because there's a brief scene where like a reporter like a TV reporter like comes up to him on the dock, and they start questioning him like, why'd you do this? And he just like, I don't want to answer any questions, and then Biollante like attacks the reporters like in defense of him.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, he should have gone to jail. He should have gone to prison. Lock him up forever.
Yep. Super X made a return.
Oh yeah, the Super X, Super X 2, which is the Super X but with a mirror on it.
Well, so it's the Super X with twice as thick armor. It's now remote controlled, so no pilots die.
In a bit.
Just select it now. I'm gonna have it delivered later.
Yeah.
And now it's got the reflective heat mirror made out of synthetic diamond. It's supposedly able to absorb Godzilla's heat rays and reflect it back with 1,000% efficiency or something weird like that.
Did they say 1,000%?
It was supposed to be a significant, like
it's reflected back like with a multiplier.
Yeah, it was supposed to be like a significant damage upgrade.
Solid plan. I mean, it was working.
The synthetic diamond mirror takes like 4 or 5 shots, and then it's melted and useless for the rest of the film.
Yeah.
But
it overheated quite a bit.
Yeah, but it was still quite a lot of fun, and I think the theme for that airship is probably my favorite theme in the series so far,
And that
minus the main theme from the original Godzilla.
Yeah, and that theme is a direct ripoff of the Superman theme.
Is it really?
No joke. I will play them back to back after this. Granted, I'm not saying that they like intentionally ripped it off, but if you listen to them back to back, there is no doubt it's only like a few like notes off from being exactly identical to the old Superman theme.
I love it. This is great.
That's all the notes I took on this one. Like I said, I didn't take too many just because I know we gotta, we won't have too much time on these ones.
Yeah.
You guys have any final thoughts before I get into production notes? This one has quite a fascinating production history, so I do have quite a bit of notes on this one.
I think I had like one more note that I wanted to say about it. I mean, there is the magic pollen stuff.
Yes.
Ooh, I messed something up. Oh well.
Yeah, you got psyched out in the movie. Godzilla kills the rose form of Biollante like halfway through the movie, and then you were convinced that Biollante was just gone out of the film. GG.
Yeah.
Then it shows up later.
Yep. Yeah, and then I don't know.
Were you fooled?
Yeah, I was fooled too.
You were fooled.
I was fooled by that. I will say my biggest complaint about the movie is that it felt like it kept dragging on. Like there's only 2, maybe 3 main like kaiju battles. I think there's only 2. There's
there's only 2.
Yeah, there's Biollante phase 1.
Yep.
Biollante phase 2.
Yep.
Biollante phase 1 takes place like
About halfway through
the movie.
And the last one is
And
at
then-
the smack dab at the end.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's just after Biollante 1, I thought the movie was already over or was already getting near its end. Maybe just drag on for another 20 minutes.
It probably could have helped if there was a third form, like not necessarily after the the final form, but it probably would have benefited from like a 3-act like fight structure.
Yeah.
But again, like the human drama, I mean, again, I guess it's just a matter of preference. I felt like it was too short. I mean, like not like I wanted to keep going. I just meant it felt like that there was like another like 20 minutes that they cut out. Maybe not from the end, because the pacing slows down a little bit in the third act. Not necessarily to a grinding halt, but just for how rapid fire that first act is. It felt like there was more that they like significantly more that they cut out of it. But again, maybe it's just personal preference, I guess.
Yep.
Other final thoughts? Others? Anything?
I don't really have much to say on it. Except that it was better than any of the Showa eras except the original.
Oh yeah. How you liking these Heisei films?
They're an improvement. They're a lot better. For this one, I would say the technical effects. I like the way the rose is like the vines and everything. It didn't look, papery and fake or anything like that. I mean, it was still fake, but it was pretty good for wrapping around things.
The special effects for each film, like I say, is just gonna get better and better and better. It's almost redundant to keep saying the special effects look great, but they do look great.
They're just slowly improving.
Yeah,
that's what I see.
Oh, that's right. A little note is at some point during the plot, they're like out of Godzilla cells they make this anti-nuclear bacteria.
Yes,
and they try to use that to defeat Godzilla.
Yeah,
and they like infect him with it, and they're like, "Oh no, Godzilla's too cold to let the bacteria grow." Or
gotta heat him up, throw him back in the volcano.
I call bullshit. Bacteria grows at normal room temperature. They show heat maps of Godzilla, and Godzilla's hotter than room temperature. I call BS. Other than that, I completely agree. Special effects definitely on point. And yeah.
Ratings. What would you give this film? Godzilla versus Biollante.
8 out of 10.
8 out of 10.
I give it my alternate title: How to Use Biological Warfare on Godzilla.
Out of.
I don't know. Out of whatever.
Excellent.
Out of anti-nuclear bacteria. There we go.
Perfect. So, I do have some alternate titles on this one.
Ooh.
I think I want to save those for after the production notes, though.
Yep.
I think those would be good transitions to the next films.
Mhm.
So yeah, Godzilla's Biollante had a budget. It came out 1989. Had a budget of approximately 4.8 million USD. So they definitely spent quite a penny. It only made approximately $6.9 million, however. So it was not. It did make money, but it didn't make as much as Toho wanted. I can tell you that right now. Critically, this was a critically fantastic film. Like everyone loved this film. Critics raved about it. The special effects, the story. Everyone didn't really have any issues with it. Fans and critics alike, everyone loved the film. Unfortunately, Toho just considered it a failure just because of it underperformed in their eyes, which is a bit unfortunate.
Earning over $2 million is underperforming.
Yeah, I mean, that one I understand. I mean, it just barely broke even. I mean, not barely broke even. It barely did more than breaking even. Compared that to like the last one, which was like a $7 million difference or something like that. I don't remember exactly. Point is, like, yeah, they've seen far greater returns. $2 million difference. That's, yeah, I could see why they'd be a little annoyed. I mean, if to put it in context of yen, the budget was 700 million yen. It only made 1 billion yen, so it only made 300 million more yen than what they cost, than what they spent on it.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I could understand their displeasure with the financial situation of it, but it wasn't necessarily a critical failure. So I don't know. But continuing a somewhat trend, would it surprise you if I said that the origin of this story was from another contest?
No, I mean I can believe it. I mean it's
in
planned.
in 1985, 4 years before the movie came out, 1 year after Return of Godzilla, the producer Tomoyuki Tanaka, he held a public story contest this time as opposed to more private contests. The contest was to write a potential sequel for the Return of Godzilla, not necessarily a script, just a story. The director of this film chose an entry from a dentist who wrote a story, a hypothetical story. He wrote a story revolving around a hypothetical situation in which his daughter died. Lovely, lovely premise.
Huh.
In this dentist's story, it revolved. The core plot is almost identical to Godzilla's Biollante. It revolved around a grieving scientist after the death of his daughter. The scientist then attempts to keep his daughter alive by genetically fusing her cells with plant cells. Where his original story differs, gets a little interesting. It was gonna have like a experimental like montage, like an Iron Man like suit montage, where the scientist like goes through like failed experiments on his daughter, or his daughter's cells to be specific. His first experiment resulted apparently in a giant like rat-fish monster hybrid, which then would have escaped into Tokyo Bay until Godzilla killed it.
Stepped on it.
Yeah. And then the end of his story had instead of Biollante being a giant like crocodile looking plant thing, instead it would have been a human face. It would have had a human face. So it would have been like a giant like plant with a I'm assuming his daughter's face, just a giant sized human girl face on it.
That would have been a lot more creepy.
Would have been creepy. Probably wouldn't. I'm not gonna lie. I don't think they would have been able to pull it off. I think seeing a giant like girl's face on a plant would probably just take me out of the movie. Creepy, yes, but in context of everything else, I don't see that working.
I mean, it depends on how they try to do it. If they try to do it realistic, then yeah, I'm agreeing with you. But if they like had the face be like made out of like twisted vines and thorns and everything.
Yeah, I guess.
Like that. I could see that.
So yeah, the director, he took that premise and he spent 3 years just reworking it into a script. The director himself incorporated the themes of genetic engineering, as he had a background in biology and he wanted to ground that story in a more realistic setting. So yeah, the final product was kind of a hybrid between the contest winner and the director himself, where the contest winner came up with the whole Biollante plot line and the director sounds like it came up with everything else. Now this one probably won't surprise you. It surprises me that he's this open about it. The director, who by the way, the director of this film and most of the Heisei films, he at least directed Return of Godzilla. I'm pretty sure at least. His name is Kazuki Omori. He has openly stated that for Godzilla versus Biollante, his main desire was not to make a Godzilla film. He really wanted to make a James Bond movie.
You know, considering all the action sequence,
Yeah.
I can see it.
Yeah.
100%.
He did. I mean, yeah. So it explains why there's so much just like 80s action shit and all the spy elements, like the espionage shit in the film. It's because he wanted to make a James Bond movie and just use the Godzilla film as a vehicle for that. I'm impressed that he pulled it off. But yeah, that's why that one happened. Interestingly enough, Toho gave this guy significant creative control on this film. They basically just gave him free rein to do whatever he wanted to. For some reason, they decided they made it a mistake later on. And so I don't know about the next era films, but at least the rest of the Heisei era films, they basically stopped giving creative control to their directors, and instead all the rest of these films are committee driven, basically just like just a boardroom, generic like film studio kind of thing. Apparently, designing and operating both versions of Biollante was an absolute nightmare. Shouldn't really be that surprising, but what is surprising is just how they operated the suits. The first form, the Rose form, that had a suit actor inside of it. Probably would surprise you because it doesn't really move. But that had a suit actor in it. That poor man, he was inside the trunk, like the base of the suit, and was sitting on a platform on the water. And he was basically only operating the arms. All the vines were operated on like dozens of wires.
Like a puppet.
Yeah, it was basically a giant puppet, except there was a guy in it. I don't know why there was a guy. I don't know why a guy was needed for the Rose form. It was just kind of motionless. I mean, sure, like the body like arches up every now and then, but come on, you could do an animatronic for that.
Yeah.
You could do literally anything else, but have a poor guy sit inside of this cramped thing in the water. However, because of all this, I guess it made the combat scenes incredibly difficult for the Godzilla suit actor, just because he didn't know what the hell was going on with the Rose with the Biollante's Rose suit. He didn't know how to react to the other suit actor because the suit actor couldn't really do anything.
Just waving his arms.
Biollante's final form was even more difficult, even more of a pain in the ass. Apparently, every time they needed it on set, it would took hours upon hours just to rig up on set. No doubt because of all the vines. I mean, it looks great, but yeah, I could easily see how that would be a pain in the ass. And then also, both suits, Godzilla and Biollante's final form, had little to none visibility for the suit actors. They were basically doing that shit blind, which made it not only difficult for the combat scenes, but more specifically, it made it extremely difficult for the director to get the heads to line up for the special effects moments. This one I just find funny. Like, I don't know why they did this. In the film Biollante, the final form, it spews like vomit acid and shit out of its mouth. It's like giant, like crocodile mouth with like teeth like in every inch of the mouth. It tries to eat Godzilla. Now, I don't know why they did this because it's actually spewing something like practical. but then they also digitally like put like pixie shit all over it. So
Yeah, I noticed that.
So it's like you can't really tell that much that it's actually spewing something. But the funny part is that what it was actually spewing was some kind of sap. And I find this funny because it apparently permanently stained everything it touched. So it was a nightmare again due to the limited visibility, where they couldn't line up the damn spray thing, so just everything just got like drenched in this shit. It was permanently stained.
Why would you put something that's stained?
GG.
Yeah, that's what I mean by it. It doesn't make much sense. Like, I don't know if they knew they were gonna like digitally enhance it later on, but I mean, if you're gonna do that anyway, like, why use something permanent like that?
Did they like order the wrong thing by mistake? And they were just like, well, we already used it, so might as well use the rest of the supply.
No idea. Fun fact: it's the first film of its kind to use CGI. Granted, it's not CGI the way you might be thinking. CGI in this film was only for those like 3D like models, whatever. Like it showed like Godzilla like on like the computer screens.
Yeah,
it was just like a wireframe view.
Yeah.
But CGI nonetheless, and the first of its kind, so props to that.
Yep.
The original cut of the film, when Biollante dies at the end and its spores go everywhere, the original cut had the spores fall back down onto the mountain, and flowers would sprout out like over the entire mountain. That was cut because they were completely out of scale. Someone realized that those flowers were like coming up to Godzilla's knees, and they're like dandelions, so they cut that shit.
Oh man, the ghost is awake again.
I mentioned this when
resurrected.
I mentioned this to you guys when we were watching the second film. Akira Ifukube was not happy with how they remixed his Godzilla theme in this film. He really was not happy about that. But what is impressive though, on the topic of the soundtrack. Now I don't want to get this confused with the composer, because I guess I don't exactly know who did what. There's the orchestra, like the orchestrator.
Are you talking about the guys who are playing the instruments right now?
No. Just there's the part of the soundtrack that's just orchestra band.
Okay, orchestral. Yeah,
orchestral. Yeah. So I guess there were two different guys doing the music. One of them did just the orchestral tracks. The other one did, I don't know, I guess the main themes. I'm not entirely certain.
The 70s action music that was throughout.
Maybe, I don't know.
The composer comes up with the actual like John Williams was a composer. He came up with the Star Wars theme.
Yeah.
Like the notes and everything and the pacing and like how it was actually going to play out.
Yeah.
Then he takes it to an orchestra and has it played, and that would be orchestral. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Like essentially, like the composer like writes it, and they come up with like,
and they just take it to someone else.
And then they just get it to an orchestral to get played. If it happens to be the same guy, great. If not, whatever.
All right. I mean that makes sense. I don't really know then what the issue here was. The last thing I have on the soundtrack then, I guess, is the score was orchestrated by a man named David Howell, who never watched the movie. He just imagined what the scenes were supposed to be and just made the music just based on his imagination.
Oh, you mean kind of like Hans Zimmer for Interstellar?
I guess.
Like, hey, make a theme about a dad and his daughter reuniting. By the way, it happens to be brilliant, and we're gonna put it in this masterpiece.
Oh, we'll go with that.
Sure.
Yeah. Oh, you didn't know about that?
Uh-uh.
I swear you told me that.
No, I didn't know about that.
You didn't know about that?
No.
Oh yeah, Christopher Nolan didn't tell Hans Zimmer like what the actual movie was gonna be about. He just had him make a main theme for it, and he's like he didn't tell him it was gonna be sci-fi. He didn't tell him anything like that. He's like, make a theme about like it was like a dad losing his daughter or
I got you. Hey,
something like that, so-
we gotta move on. Sorry. Anyway, That's all the notes I had on that. Last bit is the alternate titles.
Yeah,
Voice.
bring it.
You want Taiwan, Germany, Thailand, or Mexico?
Taiwan first.
Yeah.
I never heard of Taiwan in any alternate titles.
Their title for this was simply Big Dinosaurs.
It's simple.
I like it.
Simple and to the point.
Except I think only one classifies as a dinosaur, but okay.
Unfortunately, theirs is the most interesting of the four.
No.
Big dinosaurs.
Big
and plants.
dinosaurs. Germany just called it Godzilla the Ancient Giant.
Oh, no,
Okay.
Frankenstein.
Yeah, no Frankenstein, no King Kong. Thailand called it Godzilla 1990, which is odd because it didn't come out in 1990. Maybe it released there in 1990. I don't know, but they called it Godzilla 1990.
Okay.
And then Mexico just called it Godzilla 2.
Yeah.
Godzilla 2. Ignore all the other Godzillas that have come out before now.
And so yeah, that was Godzilla vs. Biollante.
Okay.
And the second film was Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah, released in 1999. And this film is pretty wild. General plot synopsis of Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah is time travelers from the 23rd century come back to the present day, and they basically say, yo, Godzilla's gonna destroy all of you. Let us go back in time and kill him when he was a dinosaur, and we'll save the day. And then they do that, and they replace Godzilla with their own little tiny monsters, little stupid little gremlins called Dorats, and they mutate into King Ghidorah. Yeah, that's the general plot recap of Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah. We good? So I wrote down that this film, it made quite a bold choice to open the film with a spoiler. Halfway through the film is when Godzilla actually fights King Ghidorah, and Godzilla just absolutely murders King Ghidorah. It's almost no fight. Blows off the middle head, destroys the wings, throws him a bunch around like the Hulk throws Loki around, and then King Ghidorah just dies in the ocean. So the film opens with people from the future saying, "Oh, like it's like they're like viewing King Ghidorah's like corpse in the ocean on a monitor, and they go, "Oh yeah, did you hear Godzilla killed King Ghidorah in the 21st century? 20th century?
I think it's still 20th century.
Godzilla,
1900s, not 20s.
Yeah. So it opens with a spoiler. It just tells you how the second act of the film is going to end. It's quite a bold choice. I don't really think it needed that, but maybe that's just me.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't harm the story any, in my opinion.
No, it didn't harm it. Interesting choice. Akira Ifukube came back. He was so pissed off about how they remixed his theme in the last one that I guess this is kind of a production note. He reluctantly came back only after his daughter like just kept pestering him to do it, just because she was so sick of him just like bitching about how they ruined his theme. They were like, she basically told him, all right, well, you go do it better then. And he came back and did the score for this one, and it sounds amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So that was Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah, I guess.
No.
I noticed that it had the same hook as a movie called Tusk. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Tusk.
Never even heard of it.
Oh, Tusk is quite a fantastic film. Tusk is a movie about a Canadian podcaster who goes to find a wicked ass story for his podcast. Goes to, I don't even remember what country he goes to. He goes somewhere out of country. I want to say Germany, but probably not. I don't remember. Might be the United States actually. Actually, I'm stupid. I think it's the United States. It's just the middle of like buttfuck nowhere in the United States. Um, so it's about a guy, a podcaster looking for a hot story, and he comes across this old man who claims that he was saved by a walrus. He used to be like a ship captain, and his ship capsized and he was lost at sea, and a walrus saved him and like kept him alive. And so it's just this podcast. That's the hook of the movie. It's like a self-aware comedy horror film, because the old man then like spoilers, I guess, for Tusk. Go watch Tusk. It's an amazing movie. The old man then like kidnaps the podcaster and tries to turn him into a walrus. It's great. This has the same exact hook though as Tusk, in where there's a reporter who's trying to get a scoop. He finds a man who claims he was saved by a dinosaur in World War II, and so he starts interrogating. Starts doing
investigating.
Nah, I wouldn't even say investigating. He does a story. Starts doing a story. Eventually leading. It's implied, at least, that he's going to start writing a book about it. But I think at least in the beginning of the film, it's just a story. He starts writing about this guy who was saved by a dinosaur in World War II. Turns out that's the new origin story for Godzilla. Godzilla was just a dinosaur. Fun fact: the actual official name for that dinosaur is Godzillasaurus.
Okay.
Yeah, not very creative on that one, but it fits.
It's better than the name that I was dubbing him,
Which was
Dinozilla.
anyway. Oh.
Well, that's something for you guys to deal with after this.
Anyway, sorry about that. We had a little interruption. What was I saying?
The hook.
You're
Or-
saying
dinosaur.
We ended on me
Yeah.
saying it's Godzillasaurus is the actual name for dinosaur version,
That's right.
and my dub for it was Dinozilla.
That's right. So yeah, that's the new updated origin story for Godzilla, is that he was a dinosaur out on an island in World War II, and then he gets killed by American soldiers, and then nuclear bomb wakes him back up.
Well, except that in the second half of the movie, that origin story is now re-revised.
Yes,
Technically,
it's re-revised to he was a dinosaur on the island, gets killed by American soldiers, gets teleported to a different part of the ocean, still gets nuked,
Yeah.
and then comes back bigger, stronger, faster, meaner.
Leaner.
Yep.
I'm just picturing this like dead giant lizard in the ocean somewhere, and then like they drop a bomb on it, and like the blast just makes it like shoot, blast it like what's it like, snap its eyes open and go like yeet.
That was the end of the movie.
That was the end of the movie.
Anyway,
Yeah.
the pacing in this one is still pretty rapid fire.
Yeah.
It's almost as fast as Biollante. The difference is that this one only has like one plot thread to focus on, so it feels more focused.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's why I enjoyed this movie a lot more than Biollante, is because it's again, it is rapid fire like Biollante, but instead of trying to jump between a spy flick and a doctor sci-fi flick and then kaiju battles, it's focused on this I thought he was a reporter, but I guess it's a novelist. It's focused on this novelist, the scientist, and
Future people.
psionic chick meeting future people and trying to save Japan, except joke's on you, the future people are actually trying to destroy Japan.
Yeah.
But
I
the
did.
narrative is a lot more focused, in my opinion, so I was able to follow it better, and I enjoyed it a lot more.
Yeah,
in my
it definitely far more focused.
Yeah.
With that said, it does fall flat in a couple, not in a couple. It falls flat in several places. Not to say that the writing is bad, just I feel like that it's a little too focused in areas that it probably shouldn't be. In the sense that like the time travel aspect is really just a gimmick. like the future people come to modern day and they go, we're time travelers. This is our time machine. And like everyone just is like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Like, no, if someone came down in a time machine and said, we're from the 23rd century.
Yep.
23rd century. We're going to go kill Godzilla. Come with us. That would be like the single biggest event in history. At least in modern, like,
Until that point.
yeah. Well, no, actually, no. Arguably, that would be even more a bigger event than the invention of the time machine itself.
Arguably, that would just be history. Yeah.
That's what I mean. Like, yeah, that would be like the single biggest historical event, period. But no, everyone just brushes off like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Like flat faces, no reactions.
Yeah.
Because it happens every day.
Biollante, and they're like, whatever. Like time travel is just like more shit, you know.
Well, but that's a giant monster versus time travel.
I mean,
That's quite a difference.
But like monsters aren't real.
Okay, your logic makes no. Anyway, we can't spend the time on this.
Yeah, you can just go back in time.
Oh my god. Anyway, so yeah, the time travel is really just a gimmick because after they set that up, they don't really do anything with it. It's just there.
Yeah.
I
I will say that, like, stepping back from the movie and looking at it through a critical eye, that was my major, like, criticism of the movie. Is like, yeah, as you said, it's a gimmick.
Yeah.
It's pretty much used as the vehicle to set up Godzilla versus King Ghidorah,
Yeah.
and then reset up Godzilla versus Mecha King Ghidorah. And that's pretty much the only reason the time travel's in the movie. They don't even touch on, hey, the timeline has now been changed after we went to the past. But everybody just was like, yeah, Godzilla just disappeared out of nowhere, and now King Ghidorah just appeared out of nowhere in his place. They don't go anything into divergent timelines or string theory or anything. It's just like, stuff just pops in and out of existence because of time travel.
And yet, oddly enough, they do make a point to say that, at least in this film's version of time travel, you won't create you won't create a time paradox or anything like that if a version of you goes to see a future or past version of yourself, one of you just ceases to exist.
Yeah.
Which also goes nowhere. Interestingly enough,
well, I mean, it's not so much as it goes nowhere, as much as that's the reason, that's their explain away for why they don't take back Mr. Shoto or whatever his name was, the corporate guy,
the general in World War II who has a personal connection, if you will, with Godzillasaurus. A very personal connection.
There's some feels in that.
Oh yes. I mean, I will give it. I will give it this. The fact that it doesn't really focus on the time travel means that the issues with the time travel isn't really what most time travel films have to worry about. It doesn't. The fact that it doesn't really go into the specifics of it means that, like, there really aren't any timeline issues. Like, there are no paradoxes. There's nothing like that, really. It's just that everything else is inconsequential to the time travel.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. I mean, I wrote down that everything after them going back to try and prevent Godzilla is really just a string of coincidences. Like, yeah, they teleport Godzilla off of the island that gets nuked and replace it with King Ghidorah. Okay, cool. Mm-hmm. But then Godzilla shows up again anyway.
Yeah, because he just so happens to be in the part of the Bering Sea that happened to have an ancient, or not an ancient, that's the wrong word. But they teleport him into the Bering Sea, and then it just so happens that a nuclear sub crashed into Godzilla.
That was different. That was different. Godzilla was a thing, just again coincidentally. Anyway, he then crashed into the sub crashed into him, making him stronger.
Well, no, the explanation for why he just became a thing anyway, coincidentally, was because there was already nuclear waste where they teleported him to.
Yeah, that's what I mean by, like, everything after the time travel is just a string of coincidences.
The nuclear waste there, as the reporter found out, was like an old, like, probably American LA class sub or something.
Something like that.
It was like one of those subs crashed there. Godzilla got teleported there. He absorbed that radiation, started waking up, and then Mr. Shoho's sub came over and Godzilla absorbed even more energy.
Yeah.
He's powering up. It's over 9,000.
Another coincidence is the fact that I guess you could say this would be like a continuity error. I guess I chalk it up to more just a coincidence because it really doesn't make a difference one way or another. But the fact that since they replaced Godzilla with King Ghidorah, that would mean that King Ghidorah would have replaced Godzilla in the continuity. But when they go back to the present, it's as if King Ghidorah is like showing up for the first time ever in history.
That's what I meant by they don't have any split timeline or anything like that. Like they replace Godzilla, and instead of it being like people's minds are altered or they worry about any of the complications, they're just like, oh yeah, Godzilla disappeared and now suddenly King Ghidorah reappeared in his place. Oh no.
Yeah. They could have gone far more sci-fi with it, but I feel like they would have ran into a lot of risks.
Yeah. I honestly feel like the movie's better for them not going into that stuff.
No, it's not bad. It works perfect as it is. It's very entertaining start to finish.
Yeah. It's just, as you said, instead of time traveling being like a mechanic within the universe or something like that, it just turns into, hey, how do we make these monsters fight gimmick?
Yeah. An interesting one. I don't think anyone expected Godzilla to time travel. But it's there. Although I did write down narratively, just like Biollante, there's one major narrative oversight that I caught, which is that in the future people's timeline in the 23rd century, I guess it would be the second timeline. So they come back initially to kill Godzilla because they're trying to play it off like they're trying to help people out.
Right.
When in reality they just want King Ghidorah to destroy Japan so that they can basically monopolize Japan themselves.
Yeah.
Because initially the future people say that Japan is like gone in the future, like it's just off the it's gone, it's decimated, it disappeared. Godzilla just destroyed it.
Yeah.
And then later on they revealed, no, JK, your nation is actually like the global dominant force.
Yeah. Like
you guys become so rich and powerful, you buy the entirety of Africa and South America. First of all, why would you buy Africa? That's a bad investment. But yeah, so their plan was basically to go back in time, have King Ghidorah destroy all of Japan except for Tokyo, and then force them into obeying future people's plans so that when they go back to the future, they'll have control of all that territory. The problem, the oversight that I saw was that after all said and done, when future Chick goes back to create Mecha King Ghidorah, they did mention that they altered the future timeline because whoever Santa Claus was, some random dude, some random asshat next to her, he was like, "Oh yeah, Japan, Godzilla totally just wrecked that place." So they did change the future in the sense that Godzilla did genuinely now destroy Japan, which brings me to my one major oversight, which is what the hell was Godzilla doing for 200 years? Like, if they left him alive, where is Godzilla in the future now? Would he not just have destroyed the entire planet? Would they have not figured out a way to kill him? And if they did, why not just use that to kill him before?
I feel like that kind of ties into my little note that I found. They act like after they teleport Godzilla into the Bering Sea, and granted, he is now more powerful. He's bigger and more powerful, as they do say.
Yep. But
after they teleport him into the Bering Sea, and he comes out to fight King Ghidorah, they're like, "Oh no, this is a bigger, meaner Godzilla who is no longer the protector of Japan." And I was just like, since when? Even if we ignore that this is breaking continuity from the Shoho era, but let's just pretend that it was in continuity with the Shoho era. At what point? Well, actually, yeah. Other than like the child-friendly movies, at what point was Godzilla ever shown to be the protector of man? In the original Godzilla, he's coming back and getting revenge on Japan for being nuked. And then in Godzilla Returns, he's attacking Japan.
Excuse you, in Return of Godzilla, he saved Japan from a nuclear fallout. he single-handedly, he was their scapegoat. If Godzilla wasn't there, the U.S. and the USSR would have nuked each other. And then in Godzilla vs. Biollante, he saved the planet by destroying the giant plant. Defender of the world. And in the original Gojira, he saved the planet by getting rid of that horrible, horrible man in his oxygen destroyer. Truly died for our sins, Godzilla did. Savior of the planet. He's misunderstood. It's misunderstood.
All right, then he saves the planet in this one by getting rid of this evil 3-headed dragon monster thing.
He defeats the future people, yes.
I hate you. I hate you so much
defeats the future people who want to come back and get rid of him.
Getting back to my point, the current timeline people are like, oh no, now Godzilla is going to terrorize Japan. And my point is, because he wasn't already terrorizing Japan before they teleported him. Like, nani? Why? How does that change anything other than the only fuck up you have is that you made him more powerful. You made him stronger now more than ever.
Good job, idiots. I can't wait for another like couple thousand people to crowd around Godzilla and protest him.
Yeah.
Now that he's bigger and stronger, he can just step on them all now.
In other news, the Toho version of Terminator looks really good.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. There's a Terminator in this one, and he whipped out his Heelys and was just gliding all over the place.
I'm just blown away. Literally.
Oh,
the true hero.
How could I forget
of the timeline?
The last note I took on this one was the fact that they had Major Spielberg in the film.
Major Spielberg. Oh yeah.
when they go back to the past, they show like a U.S. like Navy ship as like the UFO flies by and like the flamboyant gay captain's like, oh hey, did you see that thing?
It was I
was the
don't
best
remember I don't remember the naval equivalents. I want to say so there was a full bird on the senior officer, obviously. I think the full bird in the Navy is a captain. For Marine and Army, it'd be the equivalent of a colonel, of a colonel. And then they had the gold maple leaf guy, which for Army Navy is equivalent of a major. I don't know what it is in the Navy, but yeah, no.
Well, I said major, so I mean, I highly doubt that they would have like fact checked that, but
yeah, it was a captain and what at least presumably is an E4 equivalent, and they are the most flaming people I have ever seen in film.
Well, just the captain was, because the other guy wasn't so much. It was just the captain. He was the only flamboyant one.
No, they both were, because it's like, well, you can tell your son about this day. Yeah, and then in response, the E4 the O4 equivalent goes, "Yes, sir."
Well, yeah, I wouldn't really say that was flamboyant. It was just weird acting. The other guy was definitely flamboyant.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. I feel like they both were pretty flamboyant.
But yeah, I just find it funny that they shoehorned in Steven Spielberg into the movie.
Yeah. Wait, is that actually Steven Spielberg?
No, it's not. They're referencing Steven Spielberg though.
Oh, okay.
Then
the reference is going over my head a little bit.
Yeah. They were referencing. It was a nod to Steven Spielberg. When the captain was like, "Yeah, you can tell your son about this alien." Major Spielberg.
I missed that.
Trying to imply that Godzilla is the reason for Steven Spielberg's Alien films. Not Alien as in the Alien franchise. Just
no, yeah.
That's all the notes I took on this one. It's really fun movie.
Yeah,
start to finish, very entertaining. Special effects once again top notch. They finally figured out how to do King Ghidorah.
Yep.
Because
he died twice, though.
Died twice, but at least it looked nice.
Yeah, it looked nice. He wasn't a complete pushover. He didn't get wrecked by Godzilla until after.
Well, he didn't get wrecked by Godzilla until he actually fought Godzilla.
Well, I mean, he was fighting Godzilla the whole time. It was just he was actually beating the crap out of Godzilla until they broke the future Earth's control mechanism over Ghidorah, and then Ghidorah got stunned, went dumb, and then Godzilla was like, "All right, Round 2. Bam, bam, bam.
Yeah. But yeah, how'd you guys like Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah?
I loved it. I will say, so the full name of the Future Earth Alliance is actually the Equal Environment Earth Alliance, and their goal was to put every nation on the globe onto an equal playing field. Hence why they wanted to dismantle Japanese superpower into just regular Japanese power, apparently. But
I don't know if I believe that. They definitely said that they wanted to take control of Japan.
well, it was the female one. She's talking with the author, Future Girl, who's actually apparently his granddaughter.
I'm sure that's what
what she explains to him is like, we're the Equal Environment Earth Alliance, and our goal is to make every nation in the world equal, so that way nobody has power over anybody else.
Yeah,
or something like that.
No, I'm sure that like whatever like organization they're from, I'm sure that's the goal. But that's 100% not the goal of the other two guys. They say straight up, almost verbatim, leave only Tokyo alive so that we can control Tokyo.
No, they didn't say so they can control Tokyo. Verbatim, it was so we can rebuild, so we can teach Japan how to rebuild in our image.
Yeah,
That's
I don't. They were clearly evil. I don't get the impression that those two.
Yeah, no, I'm saying they were evil. I'm saying the alliance as a whole isn't necessarily. The joke that I'm trying to get to, Cody, is that they are triple EA. It's in your wallet.
That joke took way too much build-up.
Because you interrupted me halfway through to my joke and just kept on going on and trying to argue with me.
You didn't,
Mr. Sinclair.
You didn't make it seem like it was a joke. It made it seem like you were just making a fun fact. So I was just pointing out.
Well, because if I make it obvious that I'm trying to make a joke, then it's not as funny. Jokes are better when they catch you by surprise, Cody. Anyway.
Speaking of catching you by surprise, check out these production notes.
The one more thing that I have is, so they use the time travel as their ultimate gimmick to get these two monsters to fight.
Yeah.
I feel like it all falls short when at the very end of the movie, they showed that electro-clawing Godzilla and dropping into the ocean doesn't kill him anyway. I feel like they really should have just left that ambiguous. Because at the end of the movie, they're like, yep, everything that you did is pointless because Godzilla's still walking around terrorizing anyway.
Yeah.
GG, no re. All right.
Yeah, they probably could have cut out the last 30 seconds or so.
Yeah.
Like they could have showed them at the bottom of the ocean, but yeah, they probably could have cut out Godzilla waking back up.
Yeah.
Anyway, so some fun facts on the film. They really cranked up the budget on this one with an approximate $11.6 million.
Goddamn.
They gave it 1.5 billion yen. That was the budget. Unfortunately, it didn't even break even. It made approximately $11.2 million.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. That is unfortunate. Once again, this was a critical success. But it was obviously a financial disaster. But yeah, so after Godzilla vs. Biollante, the producer, Mr. Tanaka, brain shut off for a moment there. After Godzilla vs. Biollante, which was again a critical success, financial disappointment, it kind of forced the producer's hand to start bringing back in more classic Godzilla monsters to fight, to try and draw audiences back in. And he decided to start with Godzilla's arch nemesis, King Ghidorah. Unfortunately, his health was starting to decline. So while he did come up with this idea, he was replaced very early on in production with a different producer, Mr. Shogo Tomiyama. And it was this man who had a different idea on why Godzilla vs. Biollante was a financial failure. He believed that Godzilla vs. Biollante was a financial failure due to the plot being too sophisticated for children. Thus, he wanted to tone it down a little bit for children. and decided that the best way to do that was to bring back some fantasy elements from the Showa era films. Hence the time travel. Actually, no, I'm sorry.
He wanted to tone it down for children, and yet he shows
The plot.
Godzilla frothing at the mouth from almost being strangled to
tone
death.
down the plot for children, not make it a child-friendly film. But it was his opinion that Biollante failed because there was so much sophisticated themes going on that kids could not follow it. Thus, no one wanted to go see it.
Really, they even showed like blood all over.
Yeah.
Again, don't-
Why would you dumb down a plot to make it child friendly
Don't-
if you're not going to actually make the movie child friendly?
Don't misunderstand what I'm saying. I am not saying that they decide to make it child friendly. I'm saying they decided to dumb down the plots to have a wider appeal.
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. Blood violence has nothing to do with it. That would be making it child friendly. I'm saying it's the actual narrative. They thought the last film was too complicated for children specifically, but I guess general audiences as a whole.
Okay, so you're saying that he's like, if it's too complicated that a child can't follow it, then it's too complicated for general audiences, period? Is that what you're getting at?
That's what I'm getting at.
Okay.
He did specifically mention children, so I'm not saying that his actual train of thought was if children can't follow it, audiences can't. I'm just saying that's probably what the case was.
Got it.
But yeah, this new producer, that was his thought process. Thus, he wanted to incorporate fantasy elements into this one again to simplify the plot a bit. The director, same director as the previous film, Kazuki Amori, he was the one. I'm sorry. Let me back up a little bit. He had a different idea of why Godzilla vs. Biollante failed. See, it was his belief. He directly blamed the financial failure of Godzilla vs. Biollante for coming out at the same time as Back to the Future Part 2. His line of thought was, people want to see time travel movies more than the Godzilla movie, so let's have time travel in this one. It'll be an instant success.
Fail.
So yeah, you had the genius thought processes of the director making the completely logical connection of a failure over here, success over here equals people want this and this, as well as the producer going, yes, that's a fantasy idea. We can make it simple. That's how this plot came together. Not gonna lie, at least it came together quite well.
Yeah.
But it's a pretty stupid line of thought.
Yeah.
I already mentioned Kira Ifukube reluctantly came back. This film was apparently rather controversial when it released, however. Very controversial. Specifically due to the World War II scenes in which Godzilla is just brutally crushing American soldiers.
I could see that.
All right, yeah, I could see that. I remember being like,
This was controversial just because when this film released, I don't know the specifics, but there was, I guess, some kind of political tension between Japan and the US. So yeah, the fact that a film came out where the Japanese monster just brutally annihilates only the US soldiers was quite controversial. All of the director's peers openly criticized him, including Ishiro Honda. He came out and said, "Yeah, you went a bit too far there." I don't really think it was that bad. I'm sure I can understand why people would probably say it was a little too far at the time, but today looking at it, I really don't think it's a big deal. I mean, and I don't think it was the director's intention to make it controversial. I mean, his defense basically was, I asked all the American actors and they were all like extremely happy to be killed by Godzilla. Like it seemed like he had innocent intentions, just poorly released, I guess. Like the timing was just unfortunate. But maybe that's just me. Again, like me looking at it, I don't really see what any real issues, at least now. But maybe that's just me.
yeah.
I do have one more note, and then I have two alternate titles, and we'll wrap it up.
Okay.
This other production note is quite a doozy. During the production of the next Godzilla film on our roster, I won't tell you the title quite yet, but during pre-production of the next one, so when they're just planning it out, somehow some ninja snuck into Toho's special effects department and stole one of the only 2 Godzilla suits used for filming these.
They just walked out with it.
Yeah, he just stole the entire suit. They had 2 suits made for this. One of them for the guy, the other one for like the water sequences. He stole one of the only 2 suits they had for these films and just made off with it. No one knew what happened. No one knew where it went. It was quite a big deal. The suit was valued at approximately $400,000.
Oh gosh, wow.
And after they discovered that it was missing, it launched an official Godzilla hunt, where just everyone was just scouring like the whole damn like area for this thief. It was eventually found a week later, like in the suburbs, like out in the country, like in like a bamboo thicket. No one knows who stole it though. It just went missing, and then found a week later by an old lady in like the rural areas.
Poor old lady. She must have had a heart attack.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
The old lady is the ninja.
Yeah, it was her all along, really.
That's a twist.
I'm mentioning this now just because it's starting the next film. During the week that they didn't have this suit, I'm assuming they stole the actual suit that the actors wore because they couldn't film anything during this week. So they just scrapped the suit design, like the second suit. They just scrapped it basically, and they constructed an entirely new suit design, which will be used for the rest of the films in this era.
GG, Dori.
So yeah, rest in peace, that man. Or maybe not rest in peace. Who knows? I don't know. It doesn't sound like he was ever caught. So this was made in 1991. So he's probably still alive and kicking. He probably has some crazy stories. Hey kids, let me tell you about this time I stole Godzilla.
Here it is.
I feel like
Ran off and did a photo shoot with it.
I mean,
Pretty
Got a
much.
I
bunch
feel
of
like the
chicks.
suit
Be like,
had to
hey,
be
you wanna?
relatively big too. Like,
Oh, it was
Heavy,
massive.
right?
And oh yeah. I mean the suit. So I didn't mention this in the Biollante notes, but obviously they built a new suit for Godzilla vs. Biollante.
right.
Now this new suit was significantly lighter, significantly more had significantly more mobility compared to the one that the poor guy had to wear in Return of Godzilla. However, with that said, the suit in Biollante was still over 200 pounds. So assuming it was the exact same suit, I mean, they modify it slightly film to film, but it's still like the same core suit. So yeah, this guy somehow made off with what I can only assume was still a 200-pound suit, massive, like 6 foot tall, 200-pound suit, and no one saw him. How did he like crawl inside of it and just walk off set as Godzilla? How do you steal a suit like
He's got in a
that?
car like
I'm imagining this dude just like carrying it over his shoulder in one arm. This absolute unit of a man. I have a feeling that this dude's like probably like 350 pounds, and like 5 people saw him, and he's just like,
He wasn't even Japanese. He was like an American bodybuilder, just like snuck onto the set. Like his biceps are as big as the suit's torso.
it's a Russian bear wrestler.
Yeah.
he just looked down at like the security guards were at the gate, and they just looked at him, and he was like, "You didn't see anything, right?" Nope, we didn't see anything. All right.
One of the actors who portrayed the terrorist in Biollante came back and surprised he actually is a terrorist and he stole the suit. Pulled up a whole heist on it.
I imagine him just wearing it and walking out. Maybe there was a convention going on and they thought it was a cosplay.
Well, I what I can only imagine is that he crawled inside of it, walked it out, and whenever someone came around, he just stood still, and maybe they just thought it was just supposed to be there. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know how you walk off Toho's lot with the Godzilla suit.
Like, I don't think you
I
can
would
run
love
in it,
to
right?
know. No, you
Just have to
definitely can't
walk.
run. I would love to know how that man did it. But yeah, that's a nice little production note.
Yep.
On to the alternate titles.
Yes.
Shall we?
Yes.
We only got 2 this time, and this will close up the episode. We got Germany and we got Brazil.
Okay.
Both are not the most interesting, but still kind of weird.
My vote is to start with Brazil. Always end on Germany if you can.
Doesn't matter to me.
Okay, Brazil it is. Godzilla against the evil monster.
Troll.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Again, they're not exactly the weirdest, but it's just like a why.
Yes.
But Germany's, which is Godzilla, Duel of the Mega Dinosaur.
I like it.
Technically,
Makes-
I guess still fits. Just a bit weird on why they like.
that,
I mean,
I'll admit that makes it sound really epic. It's the
Makes it
duel
sound-
of the mega dinosaurs.
it makes it sound epic, sure, but I mean, look. By the time Biollante came out, even the U.S. cut the bullshit. The U.S. never changes the titles since Biollante. Like, I think we've moved past that. But anyway, that's.
We forgot our ratings.
Oh yes, what do you guys think of King Ghidorah?
9 out of 10.
Nice. I give it 2 electro claws out of 1 scaly boy.
I give it 3 Dorats. So yeah, that's gonna wrap it up for this episode. Tune in next time when we watch Godzilla versus Mothra and Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla 2.
Oh my gosh.